Welcome back to Pipsville. We are going to be starting off this episode by getting some water infrastructure in, since I did not do that last time, and making sure that we actually have our residents able to get their plumbing, able to get their power, and from there we'll get into hospitals, crematoriums, and placing in some signature buildings for commercial zoning just to get our downtown sort of planned out before adding in our residential. Last time I had gotten a start with this particular map, Sunshine Peninsula, and placed in different roads. I was doing some terraforming and planning out how things would potentially get from point A to point B, or how people would get from point A to point B. We've got this nice highway that extends all the way to the edge of the map, obviously sending people out towards Darley. And on the other end, we have got the access way to what will be our kind of medium and high density way over here. For today's episode, we're definitely going to be getting water in. We are going to be working on adding in some industry, a little bit of a downtown, and that low density. So without further ado, let's get started. Here we have our main portion of downtown. I've got some of the initial starting layout set up. This is probably going to go in and get changed again and again as things are progressing, but for the time being, we have got a solid little space that we can work with to place in our signature buildings, as well as getting a head start on some of our other services that we'll be needing. So before we get too far into things, I'm going to start first with the medical clinic. I really like using this Eastern European medical clinic. I like the way that it looks, but I also enjoy that the number of ambulances that it has is a little bit higher than what is offered elsewhere. Same with the patient capacity as well. If you've watched Cities and Skylines videos before, you know that it's wise to not put these directly on a main thoroughfare, so like this Vermont street that wraps all the way from the highway all around and is going to come down to the shipping. We don't want to put it right on that road. So I'm going to set it off a little bit, probably down here, so that way it can reach across the street if need be. I think it would be nice to, as a patient, have a view of the downtown and then also a view of the sea or the bay that is here. So I'll go ahead and place my hospital just off of Laurel Street. And I do have the recolor mod, so I like to go in and make these not transparent anymore. But I also like to alter the colors just a little bit to see what all I can play with, what all I can change. And then I typically copy that so that I can use especially this blue color, or somewhat almost teal when we're looking at it on the building, so that I can use that in other assets as well. I had mentioned in the last episode that the crematorium is a little bit better for your city than just a cemetery. So we will be navigating to get this, but for the time being, we'll hold off. We don't need it just yet. I do like having healthcare and education at the very start, so that way we can get things off on the right foot. When it comes to the elementary school, I know that of the different assets in our elementary category, the German school is the best in regards to the capacity of students that it can hold. The city elementary school has the same capacity, but the upkeep is a couple thousand higher. For a little bit less capacity, we can add on these different, or we could use these different buildings, the the Southwest Elementary or the Mediterranean. So right now I'm mainly just looking to see of these which one potentially has a design that would work well with that hospital. And I think that this Southwest would probably be best. I don't really like how these roads are working right here, so I'm going to go in, do a little bit of editing, make some changes, so that way the elementary school can sit in this space right here. Now we've got our elementary school in. I want to at least look at the high school. I think it would be nice to continue with that southwest style. And I'll go ahead and put the high school up in this area. But once again, I'm not going to place it just yet. So instead I will opt for my default brush with a small brush size. In order to remind myself later what exactly that space will be allotted for. So we've got our elementary school, we've got our hospital, which means we are starting to get our main town center in. With our signature buildings, we've got these different unique buildings unlocked. A lot of them are kind of inns or pubs. So in the meantime, I'm going to think of it as kind of the center of town. And since we have this road that kind of passes through here, which I might end up bringing the hospital over here, just so that it's not right on that main drag. And then I can treat this as kind of my main portion of town. Now, with this new unlock as we get to our large village milestone, I now have access to fire and rescue as well as our police administration. So we're going to go ahead and place in our fire as well as our police station so that we can get those started out and on their way. I feel like this particular European firehouse has a lot of nice character to it. So I really like using it within different designs. I also really like the German firehouse as well, but since the European one is a little less expensive to start off with, we're gonna roll with it. Eventually we'll upgrade, we'll get our actual fire stations, and we can bring those in as well. Between the city police station and the southwest police station, we do have a significant jump between initial price. The upkeep is close, but jail capacity of the city police station is definitely better than that of the southwest. So let's take a peek at what they look like next to other assets, next to other features. So far with this build, I've mostly been focusing on things that have been unlocked. So we're going to even come in here get some large roads, parking areas. Definitely want to get intersections so that I can work with the highway over yonder. Still got to wait a little bit more time before I can get our basic transportation services, but it will be very nice to get into the bus stops. I do have Historic Start as one of my mods, so that allows me to have access to trains at the very, very start, and if I remember correctly, also water traffic as well, just not air, subway, obviously tram, or buses. We've got all these different main buildings placed in. I could add in a college, but we're gonna hold off on it for a hot minute. Same with the recycling center, same with any big bridges or highways. Parking areas, I could probably start adding in here in a little bit, but I think once the high school's in, that'll be a better use of my time and use of said parking. We obviously have got some good ore and coal mining that has unlocked. We still don't have our oil, but we're about halfway there. Before we get into hitting play, I do want to get a bunch of housing or commercial zoned in, and then we can start doing also some of our zoning and prepping of this farmland, either closer to the highway or a little further from. I may end up changing this farm region right here that's close to the railroad tracks into something that's more of a medium density, so that way we go from a low to a medium and then to kind of a medium high and then to a high density over here. But once again, that's kind of to be determined as I work my way through this. I do like utilizing the fill bucket when I'm placing various different things in, but sometimes it's really nice to just use Find It as well. Sometimes what I'll do without going too overboard is I'll start by filling in one area, unpausing the game, and then immediately pausing it again, so that way I can just have some buildings start spawning and control the direction in which they go. This also allows for me to be able to add in other roadways between buildings and create more pathways for both pedestrians and or traffic. Since I do have the game unpaused, I'm going to increase my taxes just a smidge. I'm also going to go through and lower the budget for most things so that everything's under, well, obviously except for roads, that everything is under 10,000. Hopefully that can obviously get us into the positives as things start to populate. Since this is going to be our main downtown area where a lot of the noise is at, obviously we're going to start getting some residential here as well as over in this space. Okay, we've got our first little notification saying that we need our crematorium. So we're going to take our crematorium. We are going to be placing it just off of kind of this main road right here. I think I'm going to have this road extend, and more milestones. I think I'm going to have this road extend out and cross over, unlike this one, which is just kind of, it goes straight. Let's go ahead and place it right there. Worst comes to worst, we can move it later. Since our income is so high with all of that service trade, thank you, geothermal plant, we are going to up our healthcare to about 86%. I'm gonna bring up the police and fire. Well, fire we'll leave as is actually. And water and sewage will just do a slight increase. So we're still in the positive, we're still making money, which is really great to see, but we do need industrial. We don't have a lot of production going on, obviously, but we do have some deficits. So let's see. We've got our pharmaceuticals, beverages, food. We definitely need our farming industry put in. So off we go to this lovely little offshoot here for our farming industry. What I do like is that I had placed this bridge here, so instead of it just being a regular road and it being attached to the ground, we have got a little bit of visual interest of how things go from point A to point B. I do know that right now all of our traffic is coming up here and back and around down this way, so we don't really have any access points right here, but I think that this would be a good stopping point for us to have the farm be the starting position that we begin next time. So I'll go ahead and move this right over here. We'll put that farm right in our sights, so then that way we know this is where we will begin. Within our development points, let's go ahead, run through here, see if there's anything that I'd like to get with those 9 development points that I have. Parks. I'm a sucker for parks, especially with that high school. I really want to have those. I would like to bring in some trams. I haven't really experimented with trams before, but I do like having public transport. I am a newbie to it, so whenever I do start placing it, it's going to be pretty ugly at first as I work out some of the kinks. But thank you for joining today. I hope that you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next time for episode 3.